Welcome to the Gynergy Effect, where energy meets intention and transformation begins.
We're your hosts, Garin and Yessie, partners in life, love, and purpose.
Here to share the tools, truth, and stories that helped us build a life from the inside out.
Whether you're seeking deeper health, conscious relationships, or your next level of purpose,
you're in the right place. Welcome today to the Gynergy Effect podcast. I'm so fired up, amped up, and grateful to have the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Douglas James on here today. You ready to get after it today?
I'm ready, man. I've been fired up all day for this, all week.
What's
your texting me?
What's your intention? What one thing that somebody can take away from this podcast when they're watching it and they bring into their lives and their heart? What would that be for you?
Man, choose significance over success.
Choose significance over success. I like that. Significant over success. You heard it from him. So we're going to dive in. I got a couple questions for you, and then we're going to flow through it. So to start, what's one belief that you have today that the old you would have completely disagreed with, and why?
One belief today that the old me would have disagreed with. I probably growing up, I was in a very troubled home, and I never thought I would amount to really anything. People call me fat, useless. I was an overweight kid, and now that I'm here and I'm fit and I'm healthy and I have a family and I have success, it's like I would have never thought I would be where I'm at. The story, the upbringing that I came from, it just doesn't. The math doesn't math. But does it not math? I don't know. I know a lot of successful people that have, pretty horrible upbringings, and then they usually run from something, and they usually find and bury themselves in success. But they run from that pain and turmoil. That's a lot what I did until I had to address a lot of that as I grew up, right? So just because you had a rough start doesn't mean you can't have a strong finish. So,
wow. Yeah, I appreciate that. It resonated with me deeply because I think of my own personal journey that I've shared a lot. Some of the most incredible human beings, and I think that's probably a big part of why me and you have connected so well from an energetic level and just being on a similar frequency is because of just the way that we maybe felt just abandoned or, at times just where we had no control over our lives or what the outcome was going to be. And then to find that and that motivation of drive to prove something different. But it sounds like also understanding throughout the process that what gets us to a certain point may be the exact thing that holds us back. And we got to address some of those issues. Mm-hmm. How have you seen in your life some of that stuff from maybe your childhood and that trauma or that, those blessings now that probably are your biggest strengths and blessings that you took some of those lessons from, but how do you see those kind of translate and show up now?
Yeah. Man, so give more backstory on that so that you understand. So I grew up in a household where my dad was abusing drugs, alcohol. There was physical and verbal abuse as well. My dad didn't have any kind of career or job, really. My mom worked 12-hour shifts overnight for many, many years and took care of us. So she was the breadwinner of the family. And, I witnessed things that no kid should ever witness. Like my dad would go to a convenience store and eat the hot dogs at the gas station and shove, packages of new batteries in my pocket, and we'll just walk out the store and not pay for anything. And what's crazy is, when you're a kid, you're a sponge, so anything you see mommy and daddy do, you think is truth. It's reality. It's real. It's what it's supposed to be. They're Superman. I have two daughters, as you know. One's about to be 6, others 2.5, so every
beautiful family.
Thank you. Everything that they see me do, they take it as this is how it's supposed to be done, So we have to be very conscious, how we show up and how we present ourselves and how we lead in the home, because they're going to take that as gold. And, growing up, I thought my dad was the pinnacle of what a man was supposed to be. Yeah. But then I start to get in my own as a 16-year-old And I start to realize, wow, my dad doesn't have it figured out, and he's not the greatest person. And he's really challenged, making a lot of mistakes. So I confronted him one day, and he took a swing, and I left. I ran away from home at 16, moved in with my best friend's parents at the time. Then I moved in with my grandparents, and then that brought me on the path to finding the military, because it was either that or go to college or basically kind of be homeless, because my family was like, you got to do something with your life, So as a leader, how I show up today, I've always, focused on how can I do for other people and give people opportunity and value before I ever ask for anything in return. So treating them like an ATM, making a deposit before making a withdrawal, right? So in my military career, what's interesting is I joined the military, right? And for me, that was my way, out of the situation, and I really was just running from that pain and turmoil, and I put my head in the ground like an ostrich, just focus on like, how can I be successful? What does that mean? Make more money, that's success. But I had mentors early on in the military that taught me that you have to give before you receive. You have to pour into other people, and so any type of event or anything I took on, I always brought people with me. I always brought my junior sailors. I always brought people that could help coordinate and execute the mission, and I was really good at getting people to rally around that mission to accomplish whatever the end mission was going to be, right? And I found that brought me a lot of success, do good things happen. And it wasn't until I was getting out the military that I started to learn from people like Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar. I remember reading a quote that said, help other people get what they want, you have all you want in life, right? Yeah. And I'm like, dang, that's exactly how I showed up in the military, and that I just carried that on into entrepreneurship, and it's brought me, great success. So, but I'll tell you, back, the trauma and everything, these are all things that I was running from. Building success, I've built like a 9-figure brand and all of these things, done incredible things in the marketplace. But that, what I realize is, success doesn't silence your soul. If you don't address, if you don't address the turmoil and the trauma and the stuff that you have as a childhood, it's going to affect how you lead. It's going to affect how you communicate and show up for your family, your kids, and your wife or your husband. So I had to spend probably 3 years right before I got out the military. I was in therapy twice a week for 3 years, just addressing everything that I was going through, that was showing up in my life for when I was a kid, and still to this day, not so much today. I've done a lot of work, but in recent years, it's definitely impacted how I am as a husband, how I am as a father, so there's constant work that has to happen, because it's every day you have to discern yes or no, what's the right thing to do, what's the wrong thing to do, because we're all human beings. We're all built for survival, right?
Yeah. So when you grew up not having that moral compass, maybe as an example, right? Because you talked about going to the store and your dad's stuffing batteries in your pockets, your dad's swinging at you, you're moving out at 16. I'm sure there's so much more in between that. And I moved out at 16 from my home, and my dad swung at me the same way. So actually, like, the things that you say resonate so deeply, but I understand also there's so much in between that. But what you're talking about now is how that stuff showed up again as you are building your family, as you're building the life that you desire, and how that stuff that motivated you, drove you, but you kind of end up, sounds like you put your head down and you're just driving for an outcome, but you're not addressing the other parts of life. I call it level 5 life, right? Yeah. It's having all success just isn't financial. And sometimes that's, as we're growing up, that's what we're tuned to believe, like, hey, if I build a business, if I get financial success, that means I'm a successful human being. But that's actually what I found is not the case. And it sounds like through your journey, you realize that's not the case as well. There's these other aspects where that childhood trauma showed up, and then it ended up impacting the way that you were maybe as a husband or as a father, or just in general, that you were like, okay, this isn't who I am, and I'm not going to let this define me. But how did you start to see that and then understand those patterns so that other people, if they're going through that right now, maybe they're in their life, they're finding, they were able to translate their trauma into financial or career driven success, but they're feeling disconnected in these different ways. How were you able to identify that? And then what were some of those mechanisms you talked about, therapy, but in your own daily life that you kind of identify, okay, this is a pattern, and now let me address that? What specifics?
Yeah, what I'll tell you is, so distance creates like complexity, right? So I started to really distance myself from other people, friends, even certain business partners, my own family, my own kids and my wife, because I got so consumed by the success and being basically kind of like on top of the world, 2.5, 3 years ago. This is like recent years, I'm 37. So yeah, I did have to do a lot of work through therapy and address a lot of things when I was in the military, but it wasn't done. I stopped doing the work. I should have continued doing the work when I got out. When I got out the military, I was like, shoo, I'm out. I can focus on business. And I was already doing 6 figures a month, active duty in the Navy, making 6 figures a month outside the Navy. It's an insane story. But around 2.5 years ago, man, I was traveling nonstop. I was speaking like podcasts, like this, and speaking on stages, doing all the things, hosting events, doing all of that. My business was at peak, doing multiple 7 figures a month. And I was very disconnected from my wife, disconnected from my kids, disconnected from my faith, right? And my faith was the reason why I married my wife, Sonia, who is because she helped me get connected back to my faith. And when I met her family, I saw love that I've never experienced before in my life, right? Because mind you, I'm a kid that is fear of being left alone, being abandoned. My dad constantly left to go drink, run around strippers, whatever the heck he was doing. My mom was always working, even though she was providing for the family. I didn't understand that because she was gone 5-6 days a week, working 12-hour shifts at night. Right. So during the day she was sleeping. So my mom wasn't there. So I was just this, troubled individual. And so I'm traveling, doing all these things, right, and focusing on my business. And at the same time, man, that business, which was at peak, started to have this decline. And I got so consumed with trying to fix it because I went from like doing multiple 7 figures a month to doing low 6 figures a month, but with 7 figures of expenses.
Yeah, people don't understand that.
Yeah,
it's not what you make; it's what you keep. At the end of the day.
So advertising, payroll, all the things
that keeps coming, regardless of the money that's coming in.
Yeah. So I just remember I had 2 quarters back to back in the red, and I lost like 8 figures. Yeah. And I'm like, damn, man, this sucks. And I'm at my lowest peak. Business. My wife and I are legitimately like divorce was on the table. Yeah. That was a conversation that was happening. I was living outside the home to give us space for a few months. Didn't see my kids, and it was in that moment. I just remember being in the office wherever I was, and I just dropped to my knees and threw my hands up, surrendered my life to Jesus. And ever since that moment, man, everything's just gotten better. The very next day, someone put me in a 3-way chat with my now partner, Eric, who together we've built a technology company that works with a lot of business owners and helps them with their lead qualification and stuff. Right. And that basically saved my previous business, but helped me build this incredibly new business that provides incredible value in the marketplace. And I'm just so thankful. So to roundabout back to your question on how it's showing up, the conduit you're going to hear in my story of what's kind of brought me back to baseline to create a more stable foundation has been my faith, and giving everything to him each and every day. And then from there, my wife, and then my kids, and then my business, you know, in that order. So, I think I answered your question.
No, I mean, that was really good, because what you did is you explained kind of this journey that you've been on. And I equate it always to the hero's journey, right? We're all the best people, the greatest people in life have been through the most amount of adversity, because that's what strengthened them. And when they became clear on who they are and what they desired out of their life, and it was in alignment with their values, that's when you see such greatness that's able to be created. And you have to go through these different parts, like different levels, different devils. And so one aspect that I see that people have a really hard time with is what you talked about, is disconnecting your identity or your ego from what it is that you're doing. And it sounds like you had that moment when you're just got fed up and you surrendered your life to God. But there's, I'm sure, a large lead up to that of just, you know I went through times where, you know, I built everything that I desired to build, but I was the least happy, and I couldn't even sleep because it was the same thing. We were doing 8 figures, and then all of a sudden it started going, and, you know, every 2 weeks I had $250,000 a month in payroll, and it was this like weight that was sitting on my chest because I couldn't escape it, you know, and that had a huge just mental part. And then I was going through a divorce, and I was going through all these, my grandma died, my dad died, they're like my mom and dad. You know, my dad was my hero growing up, and, you know, all this stuff happened in a short period. And I can relate to what you're saying so much on just that identity that you have as a kid of like just feeling like helpless in that abandonment, and how deep that resonates and it shows up into your normal life, you know, after that. But what would be that moment when you got down on your knees? Like, what led up to that? Like, how did you go from being that one to create these outcomes for your life and like being the driver of that, to coming to this part where you're like, I'm going to let go and I'm going to be okay. Yeah. Not attaching my identity and not.
Man, so your identity can destroy you. Like, here's the thing about identities and beliefs. They're actually decisions. Like, it's a yes or no kind of thing. You know, if you have a certain belief or an identity you resonate with, where like that's who you are, you choose to do that. You know, so if choosing to do that produces a negative outcome, it's no one's fault but your own. Right. Like, for example, quick story. We have my story, but this is a story that just popped up in my head. I was working at the Navy hospital here in San Diego, and there's a Filipino lady, a civilian. This was when I was active duty, and she always would like talk about her son all the time. Like, she loved her son. She's a mom, like rightfully so. Talked about her son all the time. So, you know, take him to shop for groceries, get him the best stuff, buy him the movies. You know, just really take care of him. And and I started to ask, well, you know, I asked her one day candidly, I'm like, man, I love, you know, your son. That's awesome. I want to have kids one day. It's like, how old is your son? I started to get really curious, and I let this go on for like a couple weeks. And she's like, yeah, he's 35 years old. And I was like, oh, what does he do for a living? Like, where does he live? He's like, oh, he lives here. He lives with me at home. Oh, okay. Your son's 35, lives with you at home. What does he do for a living? Does he have a job or anything, like career? He's like, no, I take care of him right now. You know, he's my son. I want to take care of him. So basically what I'm getting at, and what I started, the cogwheel in my mind was like, wow. So this woman had, I guess when she was young, she wanted to be the best mom she could. You know, she'd take care of her son, bathe her son, put it in the best schools, best food. You know, she would tell me all these stories. Yeah. And then, because she wanted to be the best mom, that was her belief and her identity, to be the best mom she could. But now, you know, the son is 35, living on the couch, barking orders and directing her, telling her what to do, right? So like now that identity or that belief system is no longer serving her, right? So now it's like I'm listening and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're now destroying your life because of this identity, right? You know. And you're being this best son, but you're actually doing your son disservice, because look at him now. He's a middle-aged man living on your couch, you know? So I think about that story and I think about, wow, my identity, the things that I've gone through. What are the stories and the identity and the belief systems that I have that I've one day had, maybe when I was in my teenage years or my 20s or even in my early 30s, that that haven't evolved, right? That I'm still thinking who I am, but we are all evolution happens constantly. You know, every 2 to 5 years, you're going to go through some type of significant change in your business, in your body, in your mindset, everything, you know, in your family. And you have to be willing to adapt and accept new outcomes, right? And adapt to those outcomes and change your trajectory. Like we always have this idea of like, in 5-10 years, I want to be here, right? But then, you know, we don't get there and we're like, what happened? Well, it's because the terrain changed. You have to be able to adapt and change over time. And what people don't realize is life is like a minefield. There's constant mines everywhere, and you're going to step on a mine. But the idea is to not avoid the mines. It's to limit the amount of scars you get, right?
Yeah.
Because we're going to F up. We're going to do things that make bad decisions. So you have to continue to adapt and get better and have a sense of clairvoyancy of like as to what's come. Because I know so many people that go through life, make dumb mistakes, and they keep making the same mistake over and over again. Right. But they never come back, look backwards, and be grateful for where they came because they came so far. So don't get so tied up on the goal, but also learn from the past mistakes so you don't make those same mistakes again. You know, I've been guilty of that, you know. I've been guilty of that where I've made same mistakes over and over again. So to go back to kind of that point and just wrap up this thought, it's, you know, you brought up the belief system and you brought up the identity. And for me, I was this, you know, famous marketer that had a lot of money and had a lot of cool friends and was on social media doing all this cool stuff. And I felt like I needed to maintain that. You know, because that was the identity.
That was the identity.
But deep down, what my real identity was like, I was a family man. I had daughters. I have a wife. And I like my comfortable home life. I don't need to be out with this facade, you know? And I got really caught up in that. And now, if you look at my social media like 4 years ago, 3 years ago to now. It's
completely like identity shift.
Completely night and day.
Yeah.
You know, there was time where you wouldn't see photos of my wife. People would ask, "Are you married?" You know. Yeah, man, it was a very interesting time. So we grew up a lot in the last few years.
What would you say during that process would be that one takeaway if somebody's battling right now with their values or their identity as far as who they are as a human being, and like, do I keep up the facade, and is that what's most important to me? Because the thought of that failure of people thinking that I'm not who this identity says I am, and that I don't have all the answers, because sometimes when we come from nothing and we create that and holding that image, like, they could be very fearful of what that means to let go of that. What would be one piece of advice that you give somebody in that situation?
Yeah, I think back. So in business, we have this saying where it's like, you ever work with somebody and they're like, and if you present an idea, they'll be like, no, this is how we've always done it, so let's do it this way.
100%.
Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Super rigid, super stuck in their ways, right? Not willing to adapt and change. Right, we talk about AI. I know you've been diving deep into AI.
Deep as I can dive, baby.
This year, right?
Yeah.
So you're doing, dude. We got to talk. You're doing incredible things.
Thank you.
But the people that aren't doing that and making it a part of their business and learning how to integrate are going to go out of business. Just like the people that thought the internet was dumb in 1999 when there was newspaper clippings saying the internet is basically dumb. Yeah. Look at us now.
Fax machine versus email.
Exactly. You know, so
time for people to adopt.
So the this is how we've always done it mentality, which you can take into your identity, your business, everything is you're going to get consumed by that, and it's going to hold you back from any prosperous growth or evolution to the next level in your life, business, whatever the case is, you know. So I think the faster you can humble yourself and realize you don't have it all figured out, and open yourself up to receptivity, that there are new ways and better ways of doing things, you're going to be a lot further along, even if you don't have it figured out. Just start with looking in the mirror rather than looking through a window.
Right.
You know, so many people like look through the window. Oh, it's their problem. It's their fault. Right. But the mirror, it's only you and you. Right.
That's a bigger thing I explain people because, you know, I'm all about self-discovery and helping people, and, you know, however I can provide my experiences and give back in that way and help people uplift their life. But they're always like, well, what do you actually do? Like what experience, whatever else. And it's like, I'm not actually going to help you at all. What I'm going to do is provide a mirror for you to be able to see yourself fully. Mm-hmm. And those parts that we don't necessarily see is sometimes the most important parts. And the best people in the world, their failures are not failures. It's them being able to utilize that and take those experiences and apply those to the future and be able to be fluid in that. Because if we identified ourselves when we were kids and we're just learning to walk and we got up and then we fell over and we're like, oh, well, shit, I'm not going to do that again because that's embarrassing, or I failed, or I care what everybody thinks, or that's my identity. Now I'm a crawler. Mm-hmm. I'm not a walker. I'm not a runner. We don't do that as kids. We get down, we get back up, and we do it, and we know that's part of the process. We just intuitively know that. So It sounds like what you're saying is, in life, in business, be able to be fluid, to understand that part of walking, part of running, part of crawling, all that is part of the process, and creating that evolution of that childlike wonder and always applying that forward. That's where you're going to create those outcomes that you desire in life. Yeah. And so that's really powerful. I really appreciate you sharing that, bro. I always love your energy, and the more I get to know you, I understand why we connect so deeply. If you're going to just delete your entire business right now, and there was only keep one skill to rebuild it. So if you're maybe somebody in that situation and they're going to make that pivot, what would that one skill be that you would really hone in, and that would be what you would take in to that next business that you engaged in? Sales.
That's it. Because everything in life is a sale. You had to sell me to come here. Even though we're friends and you asked me, I was like, heck yeah, let's go. Yeah. But because you've invested the time in our relationship and vice versa. Right. When you said, hey, come and go on this podcast, I'm like, well, there's enough value exchange there. Right. And now you're a friend. I'm like, let's do it. Of course. Why not? How could I say no? So I got to sell my daughter last night why she can't have an ice cream cone at 10 o'clock at night when I'm trying to get her to brush her teeth to go to sleep. Right. So everything, I got to sell Sonia on why I want to go eat a steak instead of go to Italian, right?
Because you telling your daughter just no, she's probably not going to understand, or that's going to create resistance.
Yeah.
So communication of sales. So what's an example of like how you, like your strategy on that?
In any conversation, you know, there's always a want and desire on one end, and there's always another party that can provide that want and desire, right?
Right.
And you know deep down you really want to make this happen, right? So the best thing that you can do first of all is like not be afraid to ask, because I think so many people get caught up like, oh, I don't know what they're going to say. Like they see a famous person sometimes and they're like, oh, I really want to go talk to them, interview them, or even take a photo, but they probably get asked all the time. I don't want to bother them, right? No, if you persist and show and you're confident that, hey, I love what you do. I love your work. I would love to share you on social media or have a photo to share with my wife, right? Whatever the case is, I think that confidence exudes. So not being afraid to, and I say that because I'm around people that, you know, a lot of people would probably fanboy or fangirl over. Honestly, there's only like literally one person in the world that I've actually fanboyed over, and it's interesting. And I told myself before, I told my team this, I was like, if I ever see this individual, I'm straight up going to be a fanboy.
Okay, who was that?
I love this man.
Yeah.
And that's Drew Brees.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
Quarterback from the Saints, right?
Yeah.
I grew up watching him for like almost 20 years. And I remember telling my team that sometime last year, and And then later that year, last year, I was in Vegas at Caesar's Palace, and here comes Drew Brees walking towards me. And I'm like, oh, my God, it's Drew Brees.
I love that. It's so funny. I was just having a conversation about Drew Brees with somebody that does some business with Drew Brees at a dinner last night.
Oh, nice.
But that's so funny. So Drew Brees was that guy,
That was it. And, dude, right when I saw him, I'm like, Drew Brees, I love you. I did, like, the thing that they love that energy.
Yeah.
Like, it shows that you support them, you follow them, right? Because that ultimately you're why they get paid what they get paid. But I know the other side of this coin from a high-level networking perspective. That's not really the response that you want to give in those scenarios.
And here we got Kaya Bear. She's our loving mascot over here. She brings the energy. That's
so if I could go back, and I would have said, Drew, Drew, hey man, I'm from New Orleans. Watch your sports all the time. By the way, we have mutual friends. Dan Fleshman, Jeff Finster, own or investors, and Jeff Finster's the owner of Everbowl, right? As well as I.
100%.
So that could have been a better, bridge.
Better conversation. Yeah, but you were just like,
right, yeah. So I was so in it. But anyway, no, I said that because, I was using it as an analogy because people are afraid to ask.
Right.
So if there's something that you want, you have to be confident and okay with just asking for it, right? But the next layer to that is if there is an outcome you're trying to get, like in a sales conversation, if you're selling a piece of software, if you're selling a marketing package or personal development package, or even tires for a new car, or whatever it is you sell, you have to be willing, like I said earlier, to give before receiving. So give value. So when your car breaks down and it stops working, you call the mechanic or you call the auto shop and you say, hey, my car's not working. It's making a funny engine. It won't start, or whatever the case is. And then you want to know how much this is going to cost, or you want to know what's wrong with it, right? And you say, how much does it cost? What's wrong with my car? The mechanic's going to go, I have no idea. You need to bring it in. We need to do an analysis to see what's wrong, and then we'll give you a quote. So what is he doing? He says, hey, we're gonna take the problem, we're gonna figure out what's wrong and figure out the best solution, and then we're gonna give you a quote. So there's an exchange of value there, And then two, that strategy of being given an analysis prior to the sales conversation is also how you build rapport to execute, have a better execution on a sale, right? Because how am I going to sell you on something if I don't know that it's actually a fit and it's going to solve the problem that you have?
100%.
I have to do a discovery, I have to do an analysis first, right? And that analysis could be free or it could be paid. If you're really good and in high demand, sure, you can charge for it. But if you're not super high demand and you're kind of figuring it out, or you're good but you're not high demand, you could do it for free, right? So I think the whole back to the ATM, make a deposit first, withdraw later, and the withdrawal could exceed what the deposit initially was. So it's almost like an investment fund, right? Where you're getting a greater return on your investment.
That's funny. A couple different things. I always say gratitude's like currency. Gratitude's the best currency. So what you're basically saying is lead with value, create value for people, understand what people's needs are, ensure that you understand that what the solution is so you can create that at the end of the day, and that really has that big impact. It is funny though, back to the Drew Brees thing, because I had the exact same experience because I've met a lot of like famous people and everything else, and like I don't usually get any, because it's just, to me it's like everybody is a human being, and we all have this energy to share. But I was at the cigar lounge, and in comes this big strapping dude that walked in, and my favorite football player growing up with Ray Lewis, man. His energy, how he was a leader, the way that he showed up, and like his spirit, bro. Like bro, he was that guy, man. The way that he would light it up. And all of a sudden I look over and there he is walking in with this hoodie, but you could just tell the way he's walking, like. And I could tell that he had a hoodie on. He didn't want people like to know that he was in there, and so like he sits down, and I'm like just looking over him, I'm like, Ray Lewis? He's like, yeah. I'm like, oh man, I was like, is it cool if I sit here for a minute? Because he was by himself. He's like, yeah, come join me. And so I sat down, I just was talking with him, asking him a couple of different questions just about life, man. I was like, man, growing up, you were my guy. I played middle linebacker, running back, and like just who you are as a human being and the way that you lead and your passion. And I asked him a couple good questions, but at the end it was like, hey, could I get a photo with you? But what I really wish I would have asked him was like, hey, I'd love to sit down with you. Like, you're a leader among leaders. I'd love to really just pick your brain and have you be a mentor for me on my journey in life, because I respect what you've done, and there's so much that I'd like to model after you. And instead of asking for a photo, I replay this all the time. I was like, man, I would have asked him for his number so that we could have kept in contact, so that I could have created value with him and vice versa, because people that have been through it, people that are leaders, they seek out, they want to help people that are seeking that out to be helped. Another example is Jeff Hoffman. He was the founder of Priceline, and he's founded a couple of $billion companies. But I just went to a speech that he gave, and it was really about like how to incorporate service into your business as like a foundational piece that creates higher retention, better culture, and everything else. And what I'm building on the tech side is all about, on the enterprise part, on culture and like bringing service into it and help lifting that, and like becoming in alignment with yourself and all these tools like signal to noise ratio. But at the end of the day, it was like so much in alignment. So I went up, I was like, hey, I don't know what to expect here, but this is so much in alignment with what I'm building. I'd like for you to be my mentor in this aspect. Would you have a willingness to do that? He's like, yeah, I will. I'd love to. And so I sent him an email, and we've been having a call once a week, on that aspect. But if I didn't ask him, if I didn't have that, feel like I had that value within myself to get uncomfortable and say, hey, this is what I desire the outcome to be, kind of like having you here, this is the outcome I desire to be. Will you come? Will you, share your knowledge for everybody that creates this value? It would have never happened, right? And so I think a lot of people battle with not feeling like they're enough to ask, Did you ever have that kind of feeling in your life where like you weren't at that point that you're at now, that self-assurance where it's like, how did you break through on that?
I think when I got into the military, I was just so focused on getting out of the situation. I wasn't the popular kid in school for sure, but I was popular in the sense that I was a chameleon and able to be friends with everyone. So, at recess, you got the trees.
That was a skill set that you developed.
Yeah.
A survival skill set.
Yeah. I was able to communicate, make friends with like everyone. So I was friends with the football team. I played ball as well, but I was friends with the emo tree, the emo kids. I was friends with the band people. I was in ROTC, so I was and friends with all the military, kids as well. So, I kind of, that was my thing, and honestly, I was looking for acceptance and validation. I was seeking to be approved by everyone too, which was part of my problem as well,
right?
Because I didn't think I was worthy. So I felt like I had to kind of deliver, communicate and network and, do all this, but I gained those skills, at an early age. So when I got into the military is very much like a corporation, like if you, with a corporate structure, and it can be very political. It is political. It is politics really, but if you can communicate, get in the right rooms and make friends with higher ranking brass, you can get open opportunity. My first duty station as a junior sailor, I'm in the Navy for a year and a half, and I get put up for Sailor of the Year in Washington, D.C. at the President's Hospital. Wow. And I'm there with 6 of the most badass decorated people in the whole command, and I win, And that's just mainly because we talked about mentors. I had a mentor. He was a chief. He had been in for 20 years. And he knew the political side of things, but he also knew like he knew the things you had to do to accelerate your career. Like, for example, every year, and this is a good tool to have too, but every year there's like a paper, it's your evaluation, and it's got blocks on it and all the things that you have to do, your leadership, uniform, your fitness, are you going to college, are you volunteering, all of these things, right? So actually the Navy gives you a blueprint to success. So if you can check off all these boxes, show up to work early, leave later, be a motivator, go-getter, do well at your job, don't have any errors or very limit your errors, you can get really far, right? And volunteer, take on projects, take on events. So my first chief showed me that, and he showed me this is what you need to do. And all of it stems from bringing other people with you. If you do anything, ask for volunteers. Don't just show up with a posse, show up with a crowd, right? And if you show other people that there's a group of people behind you, that's going to make you look way more attractive, right? Yeah. So that's really what I learned earlier, which I kind of told a little bit of my story, earlier. So yeah, I made rank, and I made Sailor of the Year, and I got all this recognition. What was the original question?
Well, I think some of the really important parts were just like you being in the Navy, the lessons that you learned through that, right? I think some of the missions that you're on and how that has impacted you. I'd love to dive into that.
Yeah, the commission, you're right. The commission, the communication, and just being a chameleon, and I just developed the skills of being like going out and about on my way and to make myself known. And I'm a tall guy, and I've always worked out. I was actually, a lot leaner back in the day, so I stuck out in uniform, always looked super sharp, took care of my uniform. Yeah. But yeah, all of that has translated into, entrepreneurship. And what's interesting is I took my flaws and I turned them into, good, beautiful things. A lot of people don't necessarily do that, right? They stay stuck in those. We talked about the belief systems and everything, but the point to me saying that is all of my skill sets were learned behaviors. I just didn't have them, to be able to talk and articulate and meet new people and network, right? I had to learn that. There was a point where I did find myself wanting to maybe take a little bit more at times. I'd be like, nope, I gotta. And here's the thing: it's okay to ask. If you've made enough goodwill and deposits, you can ask, right? You can go back and ask for those favors. So now, like in my software company, right? I built over 200 clients, and we haven't spent $1 on ads at all. It's all been through the relationships I've built up in the past 10 years because I've been giving so much in this marketplace. So now that I have this amazing new tool, it's easy for me to get clients and ask friends and industry partners, hey, if you know anyone, send them my way. And hey, I'll give you a kickback as well. We have an affiliate program, right? So that's another way to incentivize business, give them a piece of the action too.
So what I hear you saying is in this journey of life, you don't have to go it alone. Bringing people together, building that community, ensuring that you're creating value for other people. That is a way to really create that success and that the value for yourself in life. Mm-hmm. And that's where you found a lot of your momentum and a lot of the ways that you've been able to position yourself.
I'll say another thing too on that. Yeah, you can't do it alone. Like if you ever did a call with me when I'm at my desk, and you see me have all these awards behind me.
Yeah, actually, I've seen that.
I look like a rap star or something.
Yeah, a whole bunch of gold discs basically or whatever they are. Yeah,
yeah, a whole bunch of awards and stuff behind me, and those have just been accumulated. They're all like business reward, business plaques, and hitting these milestones and making it on this list, and just all this really cool stuff. But So the reason why I'll show those when I'm on video is because people know what they are. Like if you know what company gave me that award, there's instant credibility built. Like instantly. Like you
it's
made
not you just saying that.
Yeah,
here's the backing that shows
you
that.
did something that was significant, and this proves it because I know who that organization is and I know where that award came from. Right. So there's that piece. But I see a lot of people that wear their awards like badges of honor, their identity.
Right?
Exactly. And if you ever met like for example, like you meet a doctor, well-renowned doctor, he's amazing. If you ever talk to him, he's like, yeah, I have this PhD, I got this doctorate, I graduated from this school, blah, 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 me. They're just so wrapped up in that, but they lose sight of the actual, well, I helped this many patients, I've helped this person, this surgery, I cured this disease, whatever case is. Or you meet someone that won a Super Bowl, like the one football player that won a Super Bowl in 1979, and that's all he talks about for the rest of his life. Right, and he hasn't done anything else significant the rest of his life, but just talking about that one Super Bowl, right? So wrapped up in that, so got to break free for that. We spent a lot of time on that, but I bring that up because the awards to me isn't my identity. It's just broadcasting. It's a sense of borrowing authority, because there's the authority loop. When you see it, okay, you've done something. But what's more important to me is actually recognizing how that became possible, right? Because what you'll also notice behind me on my desk is a painting of my executive team that was gifted to me when I took them to Aspen a couple of years ago. So if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have all these awards, because they're the ones that's actually out there creating the success. They're out there, the ones actually building the things, right? I'm just the visionary creative leader that's saying, hey, here's this crazy ass idea, go execute it. And they're the ones that execute it, right? So awards and things, those can be tied to your identity, but I think it's really important just to give credit where credit is due, and I'm really big on that. So I always shout out my mentor, where I learned things from, who helped me get to where I'm trying to go, because the whole self-made mentality is BS. Right. We've all had mentors at some point, So when I see that, I'm like, are you sure? Like, you didn't get any advice from anyone?
Yeah,
yeah. So that's kind of why I share that. So.
Arnold Schwarzenegger talks about that too in his book, because like you think about somebody that could be claimed self-made. He brought himself from Austria, I believe, or wherever, Hungary, but the things that he's accomplished in his life and multiple times that, the odds were stacked against him. But what he says is, I was never self-made. There's all these people in my life at different points that had an impact. Yeah. Where would you say, somebody came into your life and had that impact, that was that catalyst of you being able to turn the corner, and why did that matter so much to you? Yeah,
I would say that the person that's probably had the most, there's a few, and they came at very specific points in my life. So my first one would probably be, I'm blanking on his name, because he was my high school guidance counselor.
That's okay. What's the impact?
Funny? I did a couple podcasts ago. I remembered his name. I was like, oh my gosh, I never brought him up before. And I shouted him out. I need to go get the recording. But he was the one that I was in. Every day I went to school, I was in his office, because I was going through it, with my family back in the day. I see his face. I wish the name would click. It's not. So I would say him, because he got me through a really tough time in my life. The next one would probably definitely be Chief Arnold, because he was my first mentor in the Navy. That kind of really set the foundation to where I was, the success I had. By the way, I made in the I talk about the military, but
E9?
To give you an idea of like how successful I really was in the military, I hit E6, which is like this high level supervisory position. I could be in charge of hundreds of people. I hit E6 in 5 years, when it takes the average person 12 years.
Yeah, so it's, and some people will go their whole career and never even hit E6, and then get kicked out early because they didn't make E6. So you hit it basically as quick as you could have.
Yeah, basically. I could have been a high ranking officer, which is the direction I was going. But anyway, so him, and then I would probably say Dr. Jeff Spencer. So Dr. Jeff Spencer was he's an Olympian, and he's trained like 40 gold Olympians as well, like in the Olympics, right? He's worked with some amazing people like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you mentioned, Jim Quick, Lance Armstrong.
Jim Quick,
So Lance Armstrong as well. He was with him through all 9 Tour de France's.
Oh, wow.
They won 8 of those.
That's insane, yeah.
So yeah, he's a beast. And man, I've gotten so much wisdom from him. He talks about how we're all built for survival, right? And that's our core thing. That's all we care about as human beings. So eat, sleep, and breathe. Like that's it. That's all your body wants to do. So you can technically live without your arms and legs. As long as the brain's intact, the spinal column's there, and you have major organs, you can live. Like life would not be the same, right?
But you can do it.
I've had friends that have gone to Iraq and Afghanistan and lost their arms and legs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Sometimes in these, it happens. But
what was kind of that feeling that you're having?
I just have friends that that lost their life and lost limbs and stuff in the military, and it's not easy to remember.
How does that kind of mold who you are today? 'Cause obviously that's still out there, that feeling.
Yeah. What's crazy is when I went to corpsman's. I was a corpsman in the Navy, right? The corpsman is the first medical aid to the Marines. So when the Marines are out there shooting and deployed, the corpsmen are there if they get shot or anything happens.
You're in the,
you're in it. What's crazy is I went to corpsman school, and then right after corpsman school, you go to I went to boot camp, and then right after boot camp, I went to corpsman school. So it was like 2.5 months here and then 3 months here, right? And on day 1 of corpsman school, our instructor, the head instructor for the whole corpsman school came. I forgot what his name was, but he came up to us in our class, and he basically said, 96% of you are going straight to Iraq or Afghanistan after this. And I'm like, what? I didn't sign up for this. I don't want to die. I was like, no one brought that up. The reason why I chose corpsman school, because on my mom's side, there's, doctors, nurses, and everything. My mom was like, just go medical field. There's plenty of family, and, it's in your blood, kind of. I'm like, great. Yeah, so I go through corpsman school, and the whole time I'm like, damn, dude, I'm going to die. Like that's how I lived my 3 months in corpsman school. But I showed up as a student. I did what I did, and it gets to the end, and they're assigning orders of where you're going to go. And every single order was like, field med field med for medical battalion 1 or Desert Palm, or Camp Pendleton, basically all these Marine Corps bases that are all set to deploy.
So you're going to be in the front line, in the mix.
And then they get to me and they say, Bethesda, Maryland. And I'm like, oh shoot, what is that? And I look it up, and they're like, oh, it's the President's Hospital. You're not going to war. I'm like, wow. So it was like a huge weight off my shoulder.
Luck of the draw there. Yeah.
Yeah. And you might call me like, weak or whatever. It's like, dude, I didn't sign up to like die, but I signed up because I didn't want to go to college or, be homeless. Like this was my way to go get educated, get college for free, and have a job. And
to give your life an opportunity and provide that stability. Some people they want to be in the mix.
They do, and
that's their mentality. I'm in there because I want to. But your mentality was, hey, I want to create a better life for myself.
Yeah.
Not be in the possibility of ending my life.
Yeah, and 100% respect to the guys that do want to serve and go shoot, and I do, believe in that, but that's not what I wanted to do, Right. But then there came a point in Corps school, maybe around halfway through, I was like accepting. I'm like, whatever happens, happens. Right. God's hands. Right. This is what I'm going to do. I'm trust He's going to
let go.
Yeah, I let go. I surrendered it. Well, luckily, God chose a different path for me, and that brought me in the direction that I went, which brought me ultimately here, which is crazy. Because if I would have gone over there, I don't know if I would have gone to the same duty stations and found marketing and done all the things, right? So, yeah, man. So no, I've been really close and to that, and and I've treated patients. I was stationed in Italy in 2011, and we were the first medical hospital closest to like the war zone that you could go to. It was either Naples, Italy, or the other one was in Germany, right? So we got a lot of, you know, patients from war with stuff. So I had to just kind of see and endure a lot of that, you know, over time. And you know, I've seen friends lose their lives, and I've seen, you know, moms lose their sons, and I've seen wives lose their husbands, and it's not fun experience, you know. And so in a sense, I'm battled hardened by that. I've seen the worst side of what a human being can be, but I've also seen the best side of what a human can be, you know. So you know, there's times too, like where I get caught up, you know, I doom scroll, not all the time, rarely I do. But I think I was super bored one night, and I was doom scrolling on like Instagram, and I don't know what happened, but my algorithm just started showing me, you know, dark web stuff, you know, and you take a look at this stuff and you realize, oh my gosh, the human race, like is this what we're succumbed to? Is this how bad it really gets? You know, it's just horrible. So, and I remember in that moment, it felt like a portal opened up almost, where like I felt like I was being attacked psychologically, and I started to have goosebumps all over my body. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's like it's demonic. It's like what's going on, you know? And I had to like say a prayer. I put my phone down. I went and talked to Sonia, and I'm like, babe, this world's horrible. We got to look out for our babies, you know, when they go to the park or when you go shopping, you know, like there's people that are always trying to do harm, you know. And as a protector and as a man, right, we want to take care of our family and make sure things are good. So like we carry mace, you know, we're putting the girls in jujitsu. We're kind of like doing all these things, you know. I'm like, do I need to open carry? You know, like these are all things and ideas that we're now like, you never know what can pop off, you know. And at the end of the day, we got to protect our home.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah. I mean, man, we went a lot of different places there. You know, one other thing, I'm actually getting my open carry. I'm in that. I just got approved for that right now. Nice. But it's one of those things where it's that weight, right? It's for me. There's things that you can control, and there's things that you cannot control. Mm-hmm. But the things you can control is how we are the light, right? There's so much darkness that you talked about as you're doom scrolling. Yeah. But how can we be the light, and how can we impact the world and leave our legacy? And do you think about that much, on the way that you can impact the world and you can be the light that shines where maybe other people, there's darkness that spreads?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about evolving and evolution and changing and growth, right? So if you had asked me that question a few years ago, it probably would have been something about, you know, really building schools for kids and like having, you know, changing people's lives through my business and all those things. All of that work is great, and all that work I'm still doing to this day. You know, we build schools for kids in Mexico. We help veterans with medical debt. We help veterans transition into the online or entrepreneur space from after service. You know, so there's a lot of great things that I'm doing. I've launched a Christian foundation as well. I changed my whole coaching consulting company to lead with Christian faith, right? It's called Kingdom CEO, you know? So I'm making all these shifts and changes, but what I'm finding is as I grow deeper into being a father, you know, my kids are watching everything I'm doing, right? And for me, you know, if you ask me about my legacy and what I want to leave behind, all I care about now is just having such a profound impact on all the people around me that my daughters have incredible positive stories to tell about me when I'm gone. So if I know if I can just continue to do good well, build incredible things, the story that they say about me is going to be great. How great of a father I was, how I gave before receiving, right? How I did for others. I gave my shirt off my back for people. That's what I'm most interested in when it comes to legacy and like what I want to leave behind. It's not monetary necessarily. It's not asset related, building a real estate portfolio or like all these things. Yeah, we're doing things, you know, in those arena, but I care more about making sure the family's taken care of, they're good, they're secure, giving back to the community, but also what is the story they're going to say about me? And that's, to me, is what's going to carry further, because that's all that's left. It's your kids and their stories of you, right? Stories of other people, those are great, but they can also be further from the truth, because people will have opinions, but the people that would be closest to you are going to be your kids, right? That's it, your kids and your spouse, no one else. Yeah.
That's so true, because who you are to every single person is different. And so from everybody's lens, that may be different. So it sounds like the lens of who your daughters and your family sees you is what's really important to you. What is that when you think of success? It sounds like family. What do you desire your children's lives to look like? What is that?
I want to support my kids in any decision or anything they want to do in life, right? I'm not super rigid that they have to go this way. Like if they want to go get an education at a college, I'll support that, but they will know the value of money. They will know how to make it. Those are two things, how to make it and how to value it. Because I think that our upbringing in our school system, even today, the kids that are in public school system, entrepreneurship is not a thing. Proper financial investing is not a thing, right? So these are all things that even up until my late 20s, even early 30s, I didn't fully understand until the last, 4 years is where I really started to understand how money works, and how to invest it properly, and how to set up a, life insurance policy, a IUL, and cash flow it, and like just all these strategies, how to set up a trust, so my kids are definitely going to have different level of understanding. They're going to have a baseline knowledge, skill set, writing, math, speaking, all of those things. But I don't really believe in a lot of the traditional education system. If they're feeding it to you, that means they want you to know it, because the whole education system was built to have factory workers,
right,
and people like working these jobs. And we need all that. That's all needed. But all of that is literally getting replaced with AI. AI and robots can build cars now and work in these factories. You don't need to have humans in there. Maybe just one guy overviewing it, making sure all the machines are working properly, but the augmentation AI is going to take care of it, right? So technology, AI, those are things they're going to be integrated into their knowledge. Like I'm going to have my kids probably have their own businesses going before they're 12 years old. So that's the kind of skills that I want them to have.
Being independent speaker or independent thinkers, understanding the value of money and, how to create for themselves, not being reliant.
Yeah.
Sounds like those are all important things for you to leave that legacy with them, for them to be able to have the tools to go and be successful. And when you're talking about building schools down in other countries, that's one of our missions. What are some of the things that you guys are focused on in that same way?
Yeah, so Pencils of Promise, if you've heard of them, they build schools down there. I actually got involved in like 2016, long time ago. Cole Hatter, a friend of mine, he runs an organization called Thrive, Make Money Matter.
Yeah.
It's all about creating a for-purpose business.
I love that.
So for the last decade, literally 1% of our net has gone to these organizations. And in a decade, it's a lot of money. We've done big numbers, so we've helped, we've done a lot of good. And so that's all, charitable donations, all write off, so it's a good strategy. The reason why that is actually important to me is because when I was in late 2014, early 2015, somewhere around there, I went on a deployment, to Papua New Guinea, Fiji, and the Philippines. It was a humanitarian mission.
Right.
And we literally built schools for kids. That was like the main thing that we were doing on that deployment, and rendering, free medical aid to all these Pacific Islanders that just didn't have more advanced Western medicine technology, surgery capabilities, right? So I was the corpsman, right? And I went with the CB battalion. The CBs are the construction battalion, so they build the schools and do all the things. So if they put a nail through their thumb, I'm there to take care of them, right? So I just remember the last day I think we were in Rojas City, Philippines. I think that's where we were. And we were going up this hill, really steep hill. And we're carrying boxes of books, literature, crayons, a bunch of stuff for the kids. And we didn't see like one kid the whole time because it was a construction site. We had built like multiple 4-wall structures, basketball court, a soccer field, like all of that stuff. And we get up there and there's literally hundreds of kids, dude.
Oh,
hundreds of kids. I'm like, whoa. And they just ran up to us, like shouting and grabbing our leg. Thank you.
You're the hero.
USA, USA.
Yeah.
And I just remember in that moment, I'm like, this is what it's about.
That's what it's about.
And that's why that kind of shifted my mindset, because after that, I hit E6. They actually capped me to E6. That means they gave me the rank without an actual evaluation.
Oh, wow.
Because I was so distinguished. They're like, through your actions, have earned this. And it's very rare for that to happen. It happens to less than 1% of everyone that goes to the next rank actually gets a cap. So it's super rare.
It's like you continue to carry being in the less than 1% forward in your life.
Yeah, dude, I stay in that final percent, right? But that, getting back from that deployment, I'm like, so that making rank got boring for me because I knew the system. I knew how to do it. I knew the game. And I felt like I wasn't being challenged. And on top of that, I was also like, man, I wish I could do more cool stuff like this. Like, I want to be on a humanitarian mission all the time, or like give, but I wanted to like give not just with my time, right? Because I can go disappear for 9 months, but then I want to have a family and kids too. And I want to do other things.
How do you balance it?
How do I make more money and have a greater impact?
Yeah.
And that's what led me into finding business, finding marketing, and so on and so forth.
How do you find being mission driven that way helps carry you forward through some of the challenging times?
Recently, it's food and making sure my kids are fed. Because I say that and laugh, but I'm actually quite serious, because when I hit that rock bottom 2 years ago, I was at the point of like losing it all, basically losing it all. Now, I do have investments and I'm in assets, diversified, but those things are like locked up for years. That's not liquid at all, So like, I'm a millionaire, but I'm broke in the bank.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
100%.
And you can't just get out of those things. I actually tried. They're like, nah, you signed the contract, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, damn, man. So yeah, dude. So, I mean, to be honest, it did get bad, but I was exaggerating in my own mind. I'm not going to be able to feed my kids. And that was the scariest moment, even though it actually wasn't that bad, but it could have gone there if I didn't intervene and make a shift or change. And that's when I gave it to faith. Right.
Did you find that you created almost like your own prison in your mind? And when that time was very difficult, you weren't able to create the outcomes that you desired because you're such in like this scarcity mindset, or did you not find?
I was actually quite the opposite of scarcity, to be honest with you, man, because I was doing everything I could. But the problem that I had is I put on glasses and the blinders where I couldn't see on the outside. I was just so narrow focused in on this one thing.
Right.
Lost sight of my family, kids, my health. I wasn't going to the gym. There would be a week would go by, no gym, which is horrible. Like I have to be in the gym 5 to 6 days. Like we're going to work out right after this.
Yeah, we are. We're going to go get
right
it.
over there at Fit.
Yeah. Right over there, but yeah.
Yeah, here.
Let's go.
But I think that was what held me back. Like I thought I had it all figured out. I was so focused, and I just couldn't find a solution. Lost sight of everything, and everything else besides me just kind of crumbled. So, but the desire and the drive was there, but the tool. So this is what I like to say is like every system is designed to get a result, right? Now, sometimes you can't change the system, but you can change the inputs to the system. For example, the tax code, right? You can't change that system, but you can manipulate and change the inputs to get a better result. Buy real estate, insurance or life insurance, whatever the case is, write things off, right? Have an S corp versus just an LLC, and definitely don't be just a sole proprietor, right? You're in higher income tax brackets.
Yep.
But sometimes you can actually throw out the whole system, and create, but it just depending on what it is, the outcome you're trying to get. So for me, the system has been ever evolving, and I got used to the same system and structure that I wasn't willing to scrap that and start on a fresh slate. And that almost wrecked me. So.
All right, last 2 questions, and then we're going to wrap it up and we're going to go get our workout.
All right,
let's go get it. So we're going to have 2 questions left, and I want you to be just as impactful to leave people with really something to take away. If someone listening feels stuck and broke but could change everything in the next 24 hours, what's the one move you tell them to make?
I'd say you gotta pick up a check. You gotta get your hands on at least $1,000 minimum. You gotta pick up a check somehow. So sell something. Be willing to walk into any business and help them get new customers or help them get clients, right? And take a percentage of that, of whatever you bring in, and be willing to work for free. You don't have, all you have is your time, right? So exhaust it, and get your hands dirty, but you got to pick up a check. So whatever it is that you were previously doing in your business or your life or your job, go find somebody that's doing that in the entrepreneurial world and just help them sell. Like, I would probably say that's like the first thing, if that's the most easily translatable skills that you have, previous experience, just go find someone else in the industry doing it and just become a salesperson for them, work for free. It doesn't mean you have to sit in the office, answer their phones. You can go online on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. You can go on YouTube. You can go on LinkedIn. You can DM people. You can sell for free. So as long as you have access to the internet, you can sell. Go to the library for free and use the internet. You got to sell something. You got to pick up a check.
So if you don't have money, what you do have is time, and exhaust that time and go create value for people, not expecting something right back in return, and put yourself out there in that way.
Yeah.
I think that's incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Last question. You ready for it? What's the fastest way you found from going from powerless to feeling unstoppable?
My faith.
Yeah.
My faith, man. Jesus, that's it. God, give him time every day. Always remember that he's paid the ultimate sacrifice for me to have what I have today. And I'm not in this alone. There was times where I felt I was alone. I was rock bottom alone, but I realized that there was a father there that I never had. And that's when I turned it all over to him, right? So I think that, well, you want to call it spiritual, you want to call it God, whatever you call it. I call it Jesus Christ. That's my deal, right? You have to understand that there's a greater power that's in play here that has created all of this. It just didn't happen, right? You have to start there, and you have to find your way to the center balance of what the creator, who the creator is, And I think that you have to start there by looking internally. We talked about mirrors and windows earlier. You're not going to get anywhere by placing blame, saying it's other people's fault. You have to look in the mirror first and realize where you went wrong, what's wrong, and take accountability for that. And then give it to faith and surrender it, right? And you'll find that, wow, I'm not alone. I have another person here. I have someone that can consult. If I just give him this, it doesn't mean I can sit on my hands and do nothing either, right? A lot of people say God will provide. He will, but you have to steward it and you have to do the work. Yeah. You can't sit on your hands and do nothing.
God does not like idle hands.
Right.
He likes people that are going out there and creating and moving their lives forward. That's incredible perspective. And I appreciate you sharing that. I think it's really powerful to see different people's journeys and the parts that really has been this catalyst for them to become who they are. And I think you did a great job today, and I'm very grateful for how you opened up, shared about not just the successes, but the parts of your life that were difficult, the parts that really were the catalyst for you to be in this moment right now, today. And you have such incredible energy. Every time that we've had conversations has been really intentional and full of value. And that's why I'm honored to have you here as a guest. If somebody wants to reach out to you, get in touch with you in some sort of way, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, I mean, probably the easiest way is just go to Instagram, type in Douglas James. Should be the first one with the blue check, but the handle is at _Douglas James. Follow me. Shoot me a DM. What do you think of the podcast? Love to connect with you guys too.
I love that. Another episode of the Gynergy Effect, and powerful. I hope you took as much from it as I took from it. And I'm so excited to be able to share more of these. If this connected with you, please like, please share, comment. And I look forward to our next episode and spending more time together. Thank you so much again, Douglas. Let's go get after and get this workout in, baby.
Appreciate you.
Oh, man.
If this episode spoke to your soul,
share it with someone you love and tag us at the Gynergy Effect. We'd love to connect.
and remember, your energy is your power. Use it with intention.